I think it's important to ask about gender because part of our building rapport with the caller is that we don't want to make assumptions.
You hear what sounds like a feminine voice or a masculine voice, so you assume male or female, but oftentimes our assumptions are wrong, and that could really disconnect the rapport that we have with our callers.
It's really important for rapport building that we really check in with our callers and make sure that we know them and that we're respectful of how they would like to be referred to. And I think that that helps with the connection and the trust. So I think that can also help us have better outcomes on the call.
I think it's important that we ask callers about their gender because it's easy for us to make assumptions about a caller's gender if we don't ask directly. I think sometimes our assumptions are right, but sometimes we may have a caller who has a higher or a lower voice than average. We may, make the wrong assumption. We also sometimes may not be able to catch if a caller is transgender or really what gender they specifically identify with if we don't ask directly, and we may make an assumption that could end up damaging our rapport a little bit later in the call.
We ask, and sometimes people don't want to talk about it because it's not the issue at hand, and that's okay. I think that in and of itself provides us with some insight as to what's going on today and can really help lead the conversation as well.
We ask that gender question in a very just kind of common way to just ask, just like every other demographic question we ask, just to ensure that we're getting the correct gender so that we can build a strong rapport.
When I ask about gender, I also like to ask about race and ethnicity, just so that I can get to know you better.
To help me better understand who you are, would you mind sharing with me what race or ethnicity you identify as?
That helps the caller feel comfortable in saying different mixes of races and ethnicities that they do identify with and that they think represents them.
First off, it helps us get a sense of who is calling us within our community and who we may need to do further outreach to.
It helps us provide better resources. It helps in the area of rapport, and sometimes there are cultural differences that should be addressed in the telephone call, and kind of helps us be a little more thorough with the services we're providing.
Sometimes we get pushback when asking race or ethnicity because it can be an emotionally charged question where somebody might feel triggered.
We're an anonymous hotline, right? We don't see the person. I mean, we might have an idea of what this person might be like, but we don't know because we don't see. And even if we saw, it wouldn't be an accurate assumption.
But that assumption is not a safe assumption to make. It's really about what race or ethnicity these individuals, whether they're African American, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, whatever they identify with, I want to make sure that we're getting what they identify with, not what I assume they're identifying as.
I think it's really, really important for us to ask the self-rated intent question. We ask it in the beginning and at the end.
I tell them, I'd like to ask you a question to help me get a better sense of your thoughts of suicide right now. On a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is not likely and 5 is extremely likely, how likely are you to act upon your suicidal thoughts and feelings at this time?
We could really get a sense of that before and after. It's really that quantitative measure where we don't have to make assumptions. We really know where our caller is at, and we know how effective our services are.
Sometimes when a caller hears the level of intent being from the scale being 1 not likely and 5 being likely, when they place themselves on that scale, that helps us also, and it helps them because sometimes they're not even aware at how high they are or low on the scale.
That helps us, kind of identify the efficacy of the call. If somebody is able to de-escalate throughout the call, we're able to kind of really understand where they find themselves in the self-rated intent question.
And it helps give them an internal thermometer for the future. They could say, when I'm maybe at a 1, this is what I can do. But maybe when I see those thoughts escalating, then they can start to reach out to us. And it helps regulate sort of when they're reaching out for help and what types of supports they need. And I think that in and of itself is a tool for the caller.
It puts a mirror in front of their face and allows them to really be in control in the idea of where they find they are in their intent behind acting on their thoughts of suicide.